Tuttle here. It's storm season in Oklahoma, and with that comes torrential rain, high winds, and hail. To protect your home and your family from these threats, the one roofing company you should trust is Ferguson Roof Systems. They've been providing the best in roofing services for nearly half a century. Ferguson is Oklahoma's full-service roofing company, certified with an A+ Better Business Bureau rating and a 5-star rating on Google. And with Ferguson now offering Class 4 impact-resistant shingles, now is the time to trust them with your home's roof. Get started today at FergusonRoofSystems.com.
Hey there, Meteorologist here in Tuttle, back with you. We're up and running. So, Calgon, take me away. Some of you guys have no idea what that reference is. The rest of you, you know exactly what I need. And it ain't a bath. It's one of those days. Just one of those days. Anyway, thanks for joining me. It's Sunday night. Yes, I'm aware you could not read the blog. That's part of my frustration. You have no idea, this is my angry face. I am so angry. You can ask Jody. I have been so angry the last hour. I think I got to the point where I'm delirious. So I know you can't read the blog, so what we're going to do is talk about the weather. Obviously, I'll summarize the blog here for you quickly in the next 5-10 minutes, and then we're done. So we'll be done before 10 o'clock. So thanks for joining me. Make sure you like and share this video. I would say share the blog, but it ain't up and running because my website's crashed because I did some work on the behind the scenes trying to fix it, and I just made it worse. So whatever, man. All right, that's just my new motto is whatever, man. Just whatever. I'm over it. So anyway, by the way, thanks for checking in, you guys, on YouTube, and always leaving your comments. Jody's always got you taken care of on the moderated side. Twitter, I see you guys as well. And by the way, on Facebook, again, many of you keep signing up for this, which is great. So the numbers keep increasing because Facebook has a tough time notifying when I go live. So click that link I just posted, which is the opt-in for weather updates. And then after every other update, you're going to have to hit manage messages when you get that direct notification from me. That way you'll get another one the next time I go live. You don't want to miss it, especially for tomorrow, because we're already talking about tornadoes. Yes, we are going to see tornadoes, and yes, I think they might be here in the metro. So you might want to hang tight for that. All right, let me see. I think I got everything else out of the way here. So let's just get on with the program, shall we? All right, so first thing is first. We've got a few days of severe weather across the country. Now, we had one today across Texas, Panhandle. We've got one here across Oklahoma for Monday. And then Tuesday, of course, is out to our east, so not affecting us. If we do look at the, let's shrink this down a little bit. There's the Wednesday time frame. It does cover back over Oklahoma. But then that's about it. So nothing else after that for Friday, Saturday, Sunday on into next week. Even Thursdays just barely kind of clips the state. So right now, we're going to be focused mainly on our Monday and possibly Wednesday time frame is how things are looking right now. So if we break this down into the tornado aspect, you do see kind of a hatched area here in central Oklahoma that does cover up to the north into Kansas and then back down the south and west. So that means a probability of seeing a tornado in that area is going to be at least 15% plus a probability of seeing a significant to violent tornado. It's the hatched area, a 10% chance for that. And unfortunately, that's one of the things I highlight on my blog is it doesn't look too good, as far as escaping tornadoes this time around for Oklahoma. I think we're going to have to deal with that. So we are in our peak tornado season at this point in time, so May is it for Oklahoma. So if you're new here, this is when things kind of peak out. We do have the risk here outlined by the National Weather Service with medium tornado potential, hail up to about the baseball size, wind speeds up around 80 miles per hour. That does move into northeastern Oklahoma as well, especially as we head into the evening hours. So there's, but the threat is a lot lower at that point in time, and they'll massage this data as we see new data coming in tonight and tomorrow morning. And then here's a look at the tornado potential. It's on the medium side. Now you're like, okay, what's the difference between a medium and a high? It doesn't matter. Just put it this way. I don't care if it's high, extra high. These are all words just to try to describe a threat probability threshold. Just know if we get supercell storms, they're going to produce tornadoes. Let's put it that way. On Wednesday, we do have another risk of severe weather. A cold front, though, will be slicing the state in half, draped across the I-44 corridor. So we may not even see severe weather on Wednesday in Oklahoma City. And points northward. All depends on the position of that front, and it's way too early to tell. So right now, this is the general area to kind of keep in mind. And some of the ingredients aren't quite there in the model data yet. They may come in later. So I'm kind of focused on Monday anyway, because we got all the data there and all the ingredients seem to be in place. So out there right now, we do have some storms out to our west across the Texas Panhandle. It's a cloud cover here in the infrared satellite picture. So these are drifting to the east. So we'll be seeing some cloud cover overnight tonight, and this is the rainfall out there. And as we mentioned, there are some storms out here in the Panhandle. So the good news is we're going to be getting some rain moving in across the state from west to east. So that is the best news I could give you all night long, is some of that rainfall. Okay, unfortunately, it's got to come with some severe weather, and that could even be in the morning hours. So I also mentioned that in the blog, which you didn't read, which you couldn't read, is don't be surprised to actually see some morning severe storms. And that could be a little hail, a little wind. Yes, believe it or not, a tornado or two could happen in parts of south central or southeastern Oklahoma. And it'll be a rare deal, but it's not unheard of. So here's a look at those storms at the animation here through time. After midnight, they come on through western Oklahoma on into the metro area by 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So some heavy rain at that. You'll probably hear some lightning and some thunder. A little bit of hail cores showing up in the model data within this. And so as we head into probably the mid part of the morning hours, so around 9 o'clock to noon, anything that kind of is around south central to eastern Oklahoma, anything that pops up in this area, the tail end of this stuff could, believe it or not, briefly produce a tornado. So just kind of keep that in mind. That's not the big show. That's just kind of an early teaser, for example, so to speak. But by noontime, that stuff's still lingering over Tulsa, and then it all moves out of the state for the most part as that wave moves by. And then we start to see a secondary wave move in around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon as the models try to fire off some storms up here in northwestern Oklahoma and southern Kansas, in and along near the dry line. There's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And there's storms that are bubbling up here over northern and central Oklahoma, moving through the Oklahoma City metro area during the evening hours. That line, as a front kind of runs into it, continues to press southward. There's 11 o'clock, midnight, 1 o'clock, 2, 3. So the good news is we get more rain out of this. Now, if we look at different data, we're going to see different things show up. One of the things I want to bring your attention to, and let's do that first. So let me show you. We do have to do a little meteorology in here, so hang with me. It'll be short. And I'm going to switch over to the high-resolution HER model. And we're going to see if it picks up on this also. Okay, so 5 o'clock. Let's go right about, there's 4. So 4 o'clock will do. So we've got a little area of low pressure up here to the north and northwestern Oklahoma. It's called a triple point. All right, so our dry line extends southward from there. That's the area of low pressure we're watching. Now, earlier in the data I was looking at today when I made the blog, there was actually a secondary meso low forming west of the Oklahoma City metro, which kind of put a kink in the dry line. This is what helped to fire off some storms here in central Oklahoma that would move in the metro area. Dew point values here in the purple are right around 70 degrees. So that's plenty of instability and moisture for those storms to roll into. So you kind of have 2 trigger zones here across the state. And the models may struggle with that southern position of the low. They may try to develop it more to the south and west. But that will be the second area to watch in the data as we head to tomorrow morning. But this data just came in, and I haven't had a chance to look at it much because, I was a little busy. But let's see here. And then we do have on Wednesday, let me just look at how the moisture returns on Wednesday here real quick. Let's see, that goes us to the morning hours, a long ways to go. Okay, all right, so that will be in the time frame we're looking at. Okay, so now let's do this. We're going to show you also some of the other computer model output as far as the storms are concerned, about how each one of them is going to have just a slightly different look and development for thunderstorms. So we're going to do that too. So let's get off of you. Hang on just a second. I had to load all this stuff up real quick. All right. By the way, that's the big picture for western Texas and Kansas for tonight into tomorrow morning. So that's that first wave we talked about moving off, and there's that secondary wave, and that moves all the way down. And that's it. Okay, so now let's go. By the way, that's some morning rain on Wednesday with return moisture. As long as I keep seeing the rain signal, it's going to be at least halfway happy for me. unfortunately, like I say, would probably deal with some of the severe weather. All right, so let's see here. This particular model likes to fire off some of those supercells up into northern Oklahoma, keeps it dry in central, and then it has a front move through that triggers off more storms that presses through the metro down south and east, and then that's all she wrote. All right, let's go to another cam model here. These are all precision models that are supposed to be the best at predicting convection. So here's the northern Oklahoma again, supercell activity. So it's again a no-brainer. It's a done deal for northern Oklahoma, southern Kansas. More supercells rolling through your area. The question is, will we get some here across west central Oklahoma? Right now, I think the answer is yes, even though once again these models are having a hard time showing it, but that has the same outcome as the other one. Let's go down here to this guy. All right, same idea. Storms up north southern Kansas, northern Oklahoma. Front lights up, just barely clips the metro, then moves off to south and east. That's actually the weakest look of all of them. So when I did the blog, I kind of based it off of the tech model. So here's the tech model for the morning stuff that moves through. All right, and that kind of moves on out. And then we have that new development to the north here in northern Oklahoma. And look what it does here just in the south end of the metro. It produces a nice cluster of supercells here. And probably that's along that little second area of the little surface low. Now, if we look at, this is all starts after 5 o'clock, by the way, after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But as we head into the evening hours, there's that front that lights up here, again, right around 9, 10 o'clock here in the metro area. So that's our secondary round. So we don't get the first round with a supercell that happens to come right through the metro. We'll have storms that will trigger along the cold front as that line comes through. And some of those still could be tornadic in that aspect of things through midnight. Then activity moves on off to the south and east. Now, and we're going to look, by the way, I'll do the previous run so you can see what I was looking at. This is the previous run. So you see how it produced those supercells north right there, and that actually goes through Canadian Oklahoma County. Then there's northern Oklahoma into southern Kansas. That's a big cluster of supercell storms, all of those producing tornadoes, just so you know, because how do I know that? Well, the atmosphere is completely primed for it. We don't have any missing ingredients for that to not occur. The significant tornado parameter was highest up there in the brighter colors in northern Oklahoma, and the secondary batch right there in the greater metro area of Oklahoma City. And yes, it does kind of clip Tulsa during the evening hours, so any storm that kind of moves in that area you'll have to also watch. So now let's go to the current run to see if that has changed. So the current run still has that little spot up here in northern Oklahoma, south and southern Kansas, so that hasn't changed, and it still tries to increase the threshold here in central Oklahoma as well. So that really didn't change much either. And let me see what they did with the dew point map. All right, it's got the surface low in right around the Wichita area for the triple point, back down to south and west. And let's see. It's kind of losing that secondary low it had here earlier in the data. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in tomorrow morning's day with that secondary surface low, because that'll be a big factor. But even without that in the data, it still fires off storms because of the convergence. Actually, there's the convergence right there. So there is a little bit of a low it tries to develop right here. Okay, so it still keeps it. Well, it's tiny to see, though. And that's what fires off that secondary round. Now, the issue with that is we can look at the helicity tracks, which is the rotation part of the storm. And the longer the tracks, the more likelihood you have of a longer-lived supercell that can produce, obviously, a long swath of hail, but also tornadoes. And we have some pretty decent long tracks there in this data, which indicate we might have some tornadoes that last a while. Not like a minute or two, but it could be several minutes when you're looking at that stuff. Because here's a look at the forecast sounding. Just picked one here over central Oklahoma. And we have what they call a PDS tornado, which means all the indices are maxed out. So on the table is a potential for a violent tornado. Now, I will tell you, in the most cases I've seen, violent tornadoes, which is like EF4, EF5, usually have to have some type of surface boundary interaction. So there's got to be a leftover boundary from somewhere, whether it's an outflow boundary from earlier rain maybe, or if it's like a mini small cold front or a warm front, but usually some type of boundary interaction. But that, off the table, you still have significant 2 and 3 level tornadoes, which are very strong. But they're survivable. You just have to seek shelter. And believe it or not, in Andover, the tornado up there was rated EF3, and it did pretty much knock off the homes off the foundation, and the people still survived. There were no deaths that I'm aware of looking at the information this morning, so unless that's changed, that is miraculous. So, when you see those houses just go up, you go, how do they survive? But somehow they do. So keep that in mind. All right, let's see. So that is in a nutshell everything that's going to happen. It's 10 o'clock, and here's your forecast for temperatures. We're looking at about 80 on Monday, much cooler on Tuesday. And Wednesday, we're about 76. We're the fronts coming down the northern side of the state, so the metro temperature is going to be fluctuating. The models may bump us up, may lower us, depending on the timing of the front. And then after that, we do warm up into the weekend. For Saturday and Sunday, things get a little on the toasty side. All right, so that's it. That's your quick and dirty forecast. So bottom line is I think there'll still be a couple of supercell storms. In that sounding I showed you, there was no cap, so it won't take much to get a storm to form. Oh, that was one thing I want to show you. Hold on. There was something else. I know I was missing something. Yeah, it was this guy here. All right, so we looked at the RUT model. Excuse me, the RUT model, the HER model. It's supposedly our best, highest resolution short-term model. All right, so let me go back to that, and I'm going to show you what it did, or maybe I should say what it didn't do. All right, hang with me. Okay, so it's got the storms here for tonight. Blah, blah, blah. All right, it fires off the storms up to the north, of course. Doesn't do much after that. Doesn't really fire off anything along the dry line out here in central Oklahoma. And it did that in the earlier runs too, and I was like, I don't know about this. So I went and looked, and I pulled up the cloud cover of the model, because I noticed sometimes they'll do this, and this is like a tip-off that the storms are going to fire stuff anyway. All right, so you see at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, you see this little cloud that shows up right here. The blue is the clouds, by the way. You see this one, this one? That's the model actually firing storms. And it doesn't produce any heavy precipitation with it, so it doesn't give you a reflectivity product. But here's another one here on the southeast side of Oklahoma City. And so this was all in the evening hour. So it's still trying to produce some storms. Look how long they last. This one started here, well west of Kingfisher. We'll go through a few times. We went through south of Enid, all the way up to north of Stillwater. So, but that didn't produce a precipitation element in the model data, and I thought, well, that was peculiar. So, in the earlier set of data, it produced 1, 2, 3, 4 supercell storms here in the cloud cover aspect of it. So, what's the difference is the model thinks that the storm goes up, and then it falls apart quickly, and then what's left is the cloud blow off of what it tried to be. So, I buy the build-up, I buy the development, but I don't by the just complete collapse of it. So I think once they go, they're going to go, because this atmosphere is different. Remember, that forecast sounding is way different than we've seen in all the other events here this spring. This is the first time we've actually had all of our data together. And the only thing I think we're missing, and I'm going to tell you, this is two things that could keep things mostly quiet over central Oklahoma, all right, and just kind of leave it to the north. So we have the rain coming through in the morning, right? A lot of times you guys know if the clouds linger too much or you have too much morning rain that hangs in the afternoon, it reduces the instability. So that keeps those temperatures from rebounding. So if that happens and we don't get that cloud shield out of here and we don't start to rebound into the 80s, then that really limits the severe weather threat here over central Oklahoma. And any storms that come out of western Oklahoma into this area will weaken considerably, which would keep the tornadoes going mostly just west of, like I-35 corridor, for example, way west, and then weaken as they get closer to it. So that's a positive. So that easily is on the table. You're not going to know it tonight, though. Tomorrow you have to watch trends to find that out. The second thing that's a weakness in this forecast element, and these are only two I could find, all right? Everything else I'm seeing is going not a good outcome. So that would be the wind speeds around 200 to 300 millibars. That's the jet stream level, way up there. And that's not enough blow-off or exhaust, if you will, for a storm. So a lot of times you get these columns, these supercell storms that kind of go up in a column like this, and at the top they get blown off downwind. We call it the anvil. Well, that's air that's blowing out and away. Think of like a big vacuum cleaner that pulls it away from the storm and then drifts it away so the storm can just keep on going. Well, if you don't have those strong winds at the top, sometimes you don't get that good blow off, and so you don't get a good structure, and a lot of that rain will rain back in on itself at these higher levels and kind of mess up the schematics. So that's a possible secondary weakness. Now, the winds aren't extremely weak, but there's no jet streak either. There's no strong wind element there. So that would keep the storm probably a little slower on the movement and may help to disturb it enough to prevent a long-lived tornado. And maybe just a short-lived is all we get out of it. So there's a couple of things I can find that's kind of going in our favor, but other than that, everything else, not even show you all the stuff tonight is pointless to show you everything, but everything else I looked at was kind of going in the direction of, yeah, we're going to see some tornadoes across the state tomorrow. So, and they would probably be strong to significance. That would be EF2, EF3 type tornadoes. So, you know the deal. I'll be live. So I'll do a live lunchtime update for you around 11:45 tomorrow, something like that. And then I'll be covering them live tomorrow evening. So probably after, I'll probably start broadcasting maybe around 5 o'clock. Just kind of depends on when those storms start going. There should be any time after 4 is fair game. And then I'll just track them as they come east, and we'll do what we always do. We'll give you the information without getting you all worked up. We'll keep your anxieties down low. I'm going to keep you calm, cool as a cucumber. I might even lull some of your kids to sleep because it'll be so low-key. And then we'll just track the storms as they move in, and then if you have to take shelter, well, you're going to have to do it. And the bottom of the screen here is always the instructions on what to do. That way you've got it in your head 24/7, 365. If you're new here from Oklahoma, I got to tell you this. Tornadoes are a needle in a haystack, and Oklahoma is a huge haystack. I mean huge. So your odds of ever getting one are so small. And then if you do get one, most of our tornadoes are small and weak. EF0 to EF1 category. Those are low-end threshold tornadoes. So you have all these odds and statistics in your favor. Not to say the big ones don't happen. They do, and they will get all the news coverage, and they will cause the most loss of life, obviously, and the most destruction. But thank goodness we don't get those that often. So that's some good news there. Andover, for example. We had a lot of video come out from that this weekend. It was only, I think, a city block where it actually did very strong damage to remove the houses, the frame from the slab. But it was just, I mean, we're talking just a few feet, you know, and considering the size of the whole town. So, you know, even though everybody's saying they went over Andover, Kansas, well, you're probably thinking of the entire town got hit, right? No, it was a street that got hit that significantly. But it made for great video, obviously, and there's a ton of storm chasers there, and those are destructive when you get those little vortices that go through. And you would also notice in some of those videos that you will have the immediate path where you have the storm where they got the funnel coming down, those little spiraling, you know, curlicue vorticity tubes that go in and out of those things. But if you look at all the houses around it, they're all fine. I mean, you can have, again, the house next to it and the other house next to it, and they're totally fine. It's just the one in the middle. That's how small they can be. So also remember that. Because you could have, for example, you know, say you live in a town here in Oklahoma, and you get a tornado warning for your town. All right, everybody seeks shelter. Everybody knows you go just outside of town, literally by a few hundred yards, and the speed limit goes from 35 to 45 to 55 to 65, all in about a quarter of a mile. And there's nothing but cow pasture right after that. So you could have the tornado warning for the town, and that tornado can move right over the cow pasture and never hit anything even in the town. Because the town, again, is so small, and that tornado is even smaller. So again, the odds are always going to be in your favor in these deals. So again, if you're new here and you're trying to get the deal, that is the best I can tell you to kind of help calm some of your fears and anxieties ahead of something like this. But I can't tell you that there aren't days where we get almost all the ingredients. Those are few, because it takes so many perfect things to come together to even get a tornado. So tomorrow seems to be one of those days. We seem to have everything in the model data that showed up today and tonight. So looks good there. If you're a storm chaser, you know, it looks like you're going to have your fill of it. We'll see. So the Weather Service will do balloon soundings. They'll do one at lunchtime. They'll probably do one in the afternoon at 3 o'clock. They seem to do 4-day when we have these type of conditional events where the cap may be in play or not. I don't think it'll be very strong tomorrow. I think it'll be less. Part of that is, a little tip for you is, when we have a really nice set of weather, like we had this weekend, right? Saturday was gorgeous. Today was also really nice. And you've got low dew point values in the 30s or 40s, dry air in place, and sunshine. We're heating up to 70s to around 80 or so. When you have the first surge of moisture that comes north as the storm system approaches from the west, the atmosphere hasn't had a chance to cap itself. In other words, to get that inversion layer going. Didn't have a chance to get the warm air off the Mexican plateau or West Texas, New Mexico, Colorado to come down and mix in around our area and build that cap. So usually those are sometimes significant events. And so tomorrow, Monday, we actually have that set up. That's why we can have such nice weather Saturday and Sunday. And all of a sudden, why are we talking about tornadoes? It was just so nice today. That's the reason, because usually in these situations, the dry line that does come in, it's easier for it to produce storms. And again, the dry line is just a measure of dry air out west and the moisture out east. So that was what I want to tell you with that. If you guys, I think that was it. I mean, I do so much of this already, and I don't want to just repeat myself over and over. But if you're new, if you're new here to this evening, like in the last few minutes, you're like, okay, I missed the first 10 minutes what you guys talk about. So we're looking for some supercell thunderstorms, the kind that produce large hail damaging wind and tornadoes across southern Kansas again. So Kansas will see some tornadoes tomorrow, out in the same area in central southern Kansas, near that triple point surface low and warm front up there. And then that will build southward on the dry line into west central Oklahoma. So let me think. I'm thinking probably right about, am I thinking highway? Let me find you a north-south highway that I think. So let's go north-south 58. So Highway 58, you could say 281 that runs south out of Watonga. It's well west of Highway 81 and east of 183. So kind of in that middle zone between Watonga, Greenfield, Hinton, Binger, Gracemont, and Anadarko up north toward O'Keene. So that's kind of where the dry line will be in that area. So that's probably where the clouds will start to kind of build and move. And then they'll get going as they get closer to 81 from like Kingfisher, Hennessy, down south through El Reno, Union City, Chickasha, Rush Springs, down all the way down toward potentially Comanche, Duncan, if there's any storms that develop that far south. So that's when they'll really start to get going as far as their severity and what they'll produce. So, and then obviously tornadoes in that aspect as well. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about as far as the area. And here I don't know why I didn't show you this. I'll just show you this real quick. I was looking at my map trying to figure out those zones. But let's see here. Let's do this. So if you draw a line due south out of Enid, from there to right around this region, this would be your development zone. So your storms would develop in this area from the dry line, and they would intensify as they got to the east side of this box. That's kind of how that goes. So, and then they'll stay intense as long as the atmosphere isn't too cool. Remember from the morning rain, we talked about that, as it gets to I-35 corridor. So unfortunately, it does include the potential to have tornadoes here in Oklahoma City. So I'll know more in the morning hours as far as position of the dry line, all that kind of stuff, and we'll see how everything else kind of comes together. So that's what I've got for you, and listen, I be careful what I say. All right, there is a person that gets everybody worked up over every event. I see the post, you guys share it to me, and it's like every day is the end of the world, and it is the proverbial boy who cried wolf over and over and over, and every time, oh, this is the one, this is the one, this is the one, and he's wrong every time. And then so today he did it again, of course, because this is the one. And he'll probably actually be right, only because a broken clock is right at least once a day. So he'll be right tomorrow, only because everything else is going to be right. But it's unfortunate, because when you say that over and over and over, at some point you're going to lose all credibility. You would think, anyway. Who knows? Today's world. In the old world, you would lose all credibility and wouldn't listen to you. Hence the whole Chicken Little storybook, which we all read as kids, which maybe now it's not a thing to read anymore because everybody's so woke. I don't know, but that is a problem. So it grates on my nerves when I hear that nonsense. Because where you going to go? Once you reach that level, that's it. It's Armageddon, and you say Armageddon every day. You can't go past Armageddon. There's nothing more. So I mean, I'd tune the dude out and be like, whatever, man. You've blown it every time you said that, so I'm gonna stop watching you or listening to you or whatever. But it's a different world. Nobody holds anybody accountable. Nobody cares. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe I shouldn't care either. Whatever. I got my own problems with my server and everything else. Yeah, I'm not going to say any names, by the way. So I don't need to say any names. If you guys know, you guys know. If you don't know, you will soon enough. Trust me. I don't have to say anything. It'll all come out. Truth always comes out, one way or the other. All right. That's it for me. Let me see here. I'll tell you what. Let me answer a couple of questions and then see if there's anything real quick. And then we'll go because obviously I got more work I got to do. Let's see here. See you guys on YouTube, by the way. I'm just skimming through your messages. So, man, sorry, Robert. I missed your message from your question about Tulsa the other day. I saw it after I signed off, and I was like, oh, man. So, but yeah, obviously you guys were fine. You're asking for a Tulsa sounding. I've trained you guys. This is hilarious. Listen, no one has ever asked for a sounding for their area. Ever. And this is now a new thing. It's great. I'm loving it because, you guys are learning, which means when school is in session, you guys are paying attention. So that's awesome. So I'll do a sounding for Tulsa. And then on... Oh, timing for tomorrow, Ryan, that was after 4 o'clock, by the way. And so, yeah, any storms that does make it to Tulsa, you guys, would still be pretty severe. So, potentially tornadic, although they should be weaker by the time they get that far. Because remember, you guys, air mass should be more stable. So, the storm should weaken every step it gets closer to you. So, you do have some good news on your end. Sherry wants to know, after they launch the balloons, the National Weather Service, how long before the data comes out? Well, they'll start to get the data trickling in instantly, but as far as like for the rest of us to be able to see graphics printed and all that stuff, usually takes about an hour. So timeline for the Metro, Melissa wants to know. So anytime, probably closer to 6 o'clock, as long as they develop, pretty far west of town. So that would give them a full hour to develop and then move to the west side of the Metro. So that would kind of be the line. So Jessica, now there'll be some storms in the morning. All right, so we're getting the sounding questions. What's a sounding, etc. So let me go pull that up. See what you started, Robert? That's fine. It's all good. Let me do this. Okay. All right, this is 5 o'clock. Ooh, interesting. The ruck brings that dry line, the dry air, much farther to the east, which I figured it would in a drought situation. All right, so I'm just going to pick a spot up here on I-35, just north of Guthrie, just to do a forecast sounding. So this is what it calls a forecast sounding. This is where the model predicts what the atmosphere will look like as we hit that period in time. So it looks a lot like what a balloon sounding is. A balloon sounding is when you launch the balloon with a little probe on it, and it measures temperature, dew point, pressure, and that's what this little plot is in the wind on here on your left side. So that tells us how unstable the atmosphere is, how much instability there's to work with, all that kind of stuff, if there's going to be a cap or not. All right, so in this particular case, in this forecast we picked 5 o'clock, 6, 7, we picked 5 o'clock. It has extreme amount of cape, 4,000 joules, which is way more excessive than what you really need. It has shear that's over 361 meters per second, which is more than what you need for tornadoes and strong tornadoes. And it has no cap at all, so there's nothing to prevent storms from developing. And it has a red line over here which highlights EF2, EF3 strength tornadoes, and even getting into EF4 category, with the hail size up to around 4.5 inches with a ship value of 2.7 and a supercell value of 31 and an STP of 7. So basically, it's just bad news. It's a bad news sounding. All right, now that's northern, north central Oklahoma. So you guys said, okay, what about Tulsa? So let's go on into Tulsa. Let's see what you guys look like at 6 o'clock, even though you should not have any storms there at that point in time. But we shall see. Let's take a look at this. You are also under a PDS tornado influence of this, with your shear has cranked up. You're going to be colder, but your shear's stronger. So you have an offset, but your cape is actually still pretty decent at 3,000 joules. So, oof, does not look good for Tulsa either. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, any storm that goes in this environment would be tornadic with some hail and wind. So you would hope that those storms are way out here by that point in time. And by the time they do get to Tulsa, let's just hope they don't get there till 9 o'clock. All right? So let's see what happens at 9 o'clock. Where did your instability go? Did your shear go? All that kind of stuff. Well, if we look, your cap built in huge. You have a massive cap. That'll weaken the storms as they come in, like we mentioned before, because your LCLs are really, really high. And your shear is now more southwesterly at the surface, which makes it much harder to get a tornado itself. All right, so for any just rogue storm heading into that area, that is the environment it has to work with, which is not as good as it would be if it happened earlier in the evening. But you have to have a trigger. You have to have something to get the storm to go. And right now, you don't have anything expected in your area. It's all out in central Oklahoma. So we'll see. We do have the front coming through Oklahoma City, for example, also around 9 o'clock. So let me see. We'll go to Norman. We'll see how that looks like at 9 o'clock. So once again, strong to violent tornado on the parameters here. Still plenty of instability. Shears out the wazoo, but the cap is built in, but the front comes in, and the front will break the cap. However, that also helps to raise the cloud basis a little bit, and the winds a little bit more of the southwesterly, but not enough. So, yeah, I still say you could get a tornado here in the metro, even during the 9, 10 o'clock hours. That front rolls through and shoves those storms down the south and east. All right, so let me think here. Let me go to another map. So I want to see what the what it has, the best SIGTOR. Okay, so you see this SIGTOR right here. We call it significant tornado. All right, so that's 6 o'clock. So this actually is off the chart. In other words, the scale doesn't go any higher than this. We can see this dark red in this region. Well, this is all northern Oklahoma. All right, this is all the counties in north central Oklahoma. And then the counties down toward Tulsa, then back down south on I-35. That's at 6 o'clock. Interesting, because this is a little different trend here. And this trend, I like it. I like it, because this trend, it's not much. But because it brought that dry line in more to the east, which is an outlier, so it's the rest of them are out west. But because it brought it so much into to the east, it dried everything out, and it shoved all that instability to the north and east side of Oklahoma City, and the north of Oklahoma City, like to Logan County, to Guthrie, Stillwater, all that kind of deal. So if this is the new trend, then that would shove any threat of supercell type storms out of the metro and then points north, east, and south of town. So we would just miss it. But that's to go off just this one run, this 1 hour, you don't want to do that. So what you do is you watch consecutive hours, and then you'll see new model data come in. What do they do with the dry line? Are they kind of following the same suit, or they keep it more west? And if so, you got to throw one of them away, right? One of them's a little out to lunch. And then you look at trends and that kind of stuff, and you figure that out. But so a lot of times when you're talking about tornadoes, it's a real-time forecast. In other words, you're looking at data on the fly every hour. You're doing analysis. And you're going to find out, okay, where is it now? Where's the best ingredients? What's changed? All that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go to the newest hour here. Didn't go far enough. not far enough. But at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the dry is way out here in western Oklahoma. So for it to go way out here to Oklahoma City in 4 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours, I'm not buying that. So I think it was a little too far to the east. So, but whatever, we're going to watch it tomorrow. We're going to see what the day looks like for noon. We'll go from there. All right, well, I'm going to wrap this up, but I appreciate you guys joining tonight to learn about the weather and with on tap for tomorrow. I'll see many of you around lunchtime tomorrow, about 1:45 It'll be a quick one, probably about 10 minutes long. I'll tell you where the thread is and the timing, all that kind of stuff, see if it's changed. Just make sure you have a backup plan if you have anything to do outdoors tomorrow late day, just so that you know what to do wherever you are. So, for example, you may not be at home, and you might have to take shelter wherever you are. Well, find out where that would be and find out where they recommend in that building. And if you're not in a good sturdy building, well, you're going to have to go elsewhere. And I suggest you go elsewhere before the storm hits you so you're not out in the middle of it. Make sure you use my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. It'll warn you when storms are in the area. That's the first notification you'll get. The next one, you'll get a dangerous storm approaching. You don't want to see that. What you really don't want to see, though, is a twisting storm approaching. You see that, you might be in trouble. You'll have a BTI number on there. It'll go from 0 to 10. If it's in a 1, 2, 3, it just means the storm is lightly rotating. It's strengthening. Just watch it. If it's a 4, 5, 6, ooh, you better start thinking about hitting the shelter. If it is a 7, 8, 9, 10, you better hit the deck. All right, that's how that goes. That's how you interpret those numbers. So obviously, if it was a 4, 5, or 6, I just go ahead and just get into the shelter, and then you can watch from that point forward on your phone or tablet or whatever, and see if it's going up. If you get another warning out of that or whatever. But what it'll do is it'll predict a tornado to develop before the official tornado warning comes out, based on all the indices that it uses, it crunches. So it's pretty good. It's a little predictive algorithm that does very, very well. And it gives you a heads up before the National Weather Service does, which can be as much as 15 minutes. So I would use that to my advantage. It doesn't cost you a thing. It's free. From AT's Weather. Just go look up AT's Weather to Go. All right, guys. That's going to be it for me. Dina, you're so... Okay, Dina. All right, listen, girl. Hold on. I don't want to see anybody like Dina. All right. So this is what I'm gonna do. Dina, I'm posting a link. You will right now click on this link. It says opt-in weather updates, and I will send you from my lips to God's ears through my fingertips to your Facebook instant message. Will get a notification that says I'm going live, like now, and you will never be late again. Never miss it. So click on that link, and that goes for any of you that are having trouble, that are a little late. You don't want to be late to these, man. You miss out. We've already talked about who knows how much stuff in the last however long. I was only going to be here for a few minutes, and then we just got off on different tangents, as always, as usual. But that's okay. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. You guys have a good night. Sleep well, and just be prepared for tomorrow. Again, anytime after 4 o'clock, west central Oklahoma, and then here in central northern Oklahoma, there'll be some supercells around, so we'll watch them, track them on radar for you. All right, sleep well. We'll see you tomorrow.